Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. Blood in the wallpaper. It started like any other night. Olivia sat cross-legged on her couch, wine glass in one hand, her thumb lazily swiping through Tinder profiles with the other. She wasn't looking for love. Maybe not even a hookup. Just distraction. Anything to quiet the hum of loneliness that had taken root in her bones since moving to Chicago last fall. The city was loud, electric and full of people, but somehow she had never felt more invisible. So when she matched with Jack, 32 architect, and he messaged her within minutes with a strange but charming line, "I design buildings, but I promise I won't build walls between us," she laughed. Not because it was brilliant, but because it was human, playful, present, and it felt good to be seen. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. Within an hour, they were exchanging Spotify playlists and debating whether horror movies had lost their edge. Jack's profile photo showed him in soft lighting, his head slightly tilted, a confident smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He had that clean-cut but rugged look, sharp jaw, stubble. Too good-looking, Olivia had thought. But then again, weren't all the guys on Tinder? When he asked if she wanted to get drinks that night, she hesitated. A Tuesday night. Impulsive. Risky. But she was tired of playing it safe, tired of empty weekends and ghosted conversations, so she agreed. They met at a bar downtown, dimly lit, quiet, with music just loud enough to avoid awkward silences. Jack was already there when she arrived, sitting in a corner booth with 2 glasses of red wine. From the moment she saw him, something in her stomach flipped. It wasn't fear, not exactly, more like static, like the energy before a storm. "Liv?" he asked, standing up to greet her. His voice was lower than she expected, calm, measured. He didn't smile when he said her name. He just stared at her for a beat too long, but then he laughed and said, "Sorry, you're even prettier than your pictures. Kind of caught me off guard." The wine tasted metallic. They talked for about an hour. Jack was funny, polite, articulate, but there was something off. He spoke like someone reciting a monologue he'd rehearsed dozens of times, no real emotion behind the words. Still, Olivia told herself not to be paranoid. People were strange sometimes. That didn't mean they were dangerous. When he offered to walk her home, she said no. He insisted gently, said it was the gentlemanly thing to do. She gave in. That was the last clear memory she had. Now she was running barefoot down a hallway. That didn't end. The walls breathed, actually breathed, inflating and deflating like lungs. The light overhead flickered in slow, irregular pulses. Her heart hammered in her chest, echoing in her ears like war drums. She didn't know where she was. Her feet bled with every step, cut open by the jagged tile beneath her. Where had he taken her? How long had she been unconscious? What had he done? To her, she rounded a corner, the 3rd or the 30th, and ducked into a room. It looked like a child's nursery. Dust caked every surface. The crib was snapped down the middle, like something heavy had fallen into it, or someone had been thrown. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, revealing something underneath. She froze. Behind the paper were photographs, glued to the wall like wallpaper faces. Women, dozens of them. Some of the photos were faded, their colors bled out. Others were newer, glossy, recent. Several had been violently scratched out. One had burn marks. Another had a red X drawn over the woman's eyes. Then she saw herself, taped to the wall, right beside the crib, the same dress she'd worn to the bar, the same soft smile she always gave the camera when she didn't want to look too desperate. The photo looked like it had just been taken. She backed away from the wall, and her hand landed on something soft. Not fabric, not paper, skin. She looked. The wallpaper was stitched together in places, human skin stretched and tanned and pasted to the plaster like leather. She let out a scream, hoarse, raw, and stumbled backward into the crib. On the Mattress was her phone. She lunged for it like a drowning woman grabs a lifeline. Somehow it still had power. One new message. No number. Just a red dot for a contact name. She opened it. A video. The screen lit up with flickering footage, grainy, as if filmed through a cheap camcorder. It showed a woman tied to a chair in the same nursery. Her mouth duct-taped, her eyes wide with the kind of terror that doesn't leave room for hope. Not Olivia. Someone else. The woman screamed behind the tape as something moved behind her, something crawling, not walking, crawling fast, like an insect. It had long limbs that cracked backward at the joints and skin that shimmered like oil slicks, and it wore a human face, a man's face, stretched tight over the front like a mask. Jack's face. The thing leaned in close to the woman in the chair, sniffing her like prey. Then it turned its face directly toward the camera, toward Olivia. The video cut to black. The phone vibrated again. New message. You matched with him. Now you belong to us. She dropped the phone like it had burned her. Then, behind her, the door creaked open. She turned slowly, her legs shaking beneath her. The hallway outside was empty. But there, on the wall above the crib, a new photo had appeared, fresh, still wet with developer fluid. It was her, Olivia, eyes missing, a jagged smile carved into her cheeks. The ink was still running. She screamed again, not from her throat this time, but from deep in her stomach. From a place that knew there was no logic, no exit, no way back. Something was coming. She turned, bolted back into the hallway. Every light blew out behind her one by one. Glass rained down, cutting her shoulders. Somewhere a lullaby played, warped, slowed down, and underneath it, that laugh. His laugh, low, playful, and not entirely human. The walls remember. There was no door. She was sure she had just come through it. That nursery with the photographs and the crib and her own bloody-eyed picture still dripping on the wall. But when she spun back, gasping, trying to find her way out, the door was gone. Nothing but a seamless wall, no seams, no hinges, no crack, just soft, breathing plaster that rippled slightly when she touched it. She recoiled. The texture was wrong, too warm, like the inside of a mouth. "Hello?" She screamed, banging her fists against the wall until pain splintered down her wrists. "Is anyone here?" The house answered with a long, hollow creak. Somewhere deep within its guts, something shifted. Heavy, dragging. She wasn't alone. Olivia turned and ran again. The hallway stretched ahead, but it wasn't the same as before. The wallpaper had changed, now patterned with spirals that looked like fingerprints, stained deep red. As she passed under flickering ceiling lights, each one blinked out the moment she crossed beneath it, leaving a growing trail of darkness behind her. The walls began to whisper. It was faint at first, just a hiss. But then the words began to form, slithering into her ears like smoke. She screamed just like you. You matched with him. You brought this on yourself. She covered her ears, but it didn't help. The voices were inside her head now, buried under her skin. She wanted to scream, but her throat felt tight, like it was closing from the inside. The hallway turned sharply, leading into a large room. Olivia paused at the threshold, breath ragged, chest heaving. This room was different. It looked like a living room from an old family home, but frozen in decay. A dusty recliner sat under. A yellowed lamp. A cracked television faced a moth-eaten couch. Children's toys were scattered across a mouldy carpet. The air smelled like mildew and old perfume, and on the far wall, a mirror. It was large, antique, framed in tarnished gold, but it reflected nothing. Olivia stepped inside. The door behind her slammed shut. She spun and grabbed the handle. It was real this time, but locked tight. "No, no, no," she whispered. She turned back to the mirror. Still nothing. It was as if her reflection had been erased. Then the television flickered on. She jumped. The Screen buzzed with static. Then a home video began to play. Shaky footage, old, maybe VHS. The scene was a birthday party. Children gathered around a cake. Laughter, balloons. A man and woman stood in the background, clapping. Olivia leaned in. The man looked familiar. The camera panned closer to him. His face came into focus. Jack, but younger. Maybe mid-20s. Still, too perfect. Still wrong. He was smiling, but it didn't reach his eyes. It never did. Then the screen glitched. The footage skipped, fast-forwarded violently, until the scene changed. Now Jack was alone. Sitting in a dark room. The same room Olivia was in now. The same couch. The same lamp. Only now the walls were smeared with blood. Photographs lined the floor. He looked at the camera and whispered, "I didn't want to become this." But she made me. The screen cut to black. Then another voice came through the television speaker, a woman's voice, broken, trembling. "If you can hear this, run. Don't listen to him. Don't trust anything the house shows you. The walls remember, they keep the pain. There is no door unless it wants you to find one. He feeds on guilt." Static returned. Olivia staggered back, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her legs shook. "What the hell is this place?" she whispered. She looked at the mirror again. Now there was a reflection, but not her own. A woman stood in the room, pale, gaunt, blood smeared down her chin, her eyes hollow and dark. She looked like a version of Olivia, but broken, older, empty. Their gazes locked through the glass. Then the woman lifted her hand and pointed behind Olivia. She turned. Nothing. When she looked back at the mirror, the woman was gone, but scrawled. Across the surface now, written in what looked like blood, was a single word: remember. A loud crack shattered the air behind her. She turned again and saw the door splintering open, something banging from the other side, over and over. The knob twisted violently. She looked around frantically. The only other exit was a narrow staircase in the far corner, leading downward into total darkness. She didn't think. She ran. The stairs were wooden, old and slick. She nearly slipped twice. The air grew colder with every step, and the voices returned, whispering now in different tones. Some laughed, some cried, some begged. By the time she reached the bottom, she could barely breathe. She stood in a basement, concrete walls, exposed pipes. An old washing machine sat in the corner, stained with rust. And there, in the middle of the room, a metal gurney. Straps hung from its sides. She gagged. On the floor beside it was a photo album. She picked it up, hands trembling. Inside were dozens of pictures. Women, all different ages, all different backgrounds, each one shown smiling in the first photo, presumably their Tinder profile. And then again, in a second photo. After, some bruised, some bloodied, some mutilated. Their final expressions forever frozen in pain. She found her own page. It was blank. Waiting. "No," she whispered. Suddenly, the air shifted, grew heavy, footsteps above, slow, deliberate, coming down the stairs. Olivia dropped the album and backed into the shadows, heart thundering in her chest. A figure descended. Not Jack. Not quite. It looked like him. The same frame, the same jaw. But the way it moved was wrong, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Its head tilted unnaturally, one leg dragged. Its skin seemed stretched, as if it barely fit the bones beneath. The thing stepped into the room and sniffed the air. It spoke in a voice that almost sounded like Jack's, but with too many tones, like several people speaking through the same throat. "You're not ready yet." It turned its head sharply toward where she hid. "But the house is helping you remember. You have to remember." She bolted, pushed past it, up the stairs. The creature didn't chase. It just watched, eyes following her like spotlights. She reached the top and found herself not in the living room, but somewhere new. A hallway. Clean, white, sterile, hospital-like. The walls hummed. She walked slowly, unsteady. At the end of the hallway was a single door, marked with a brass plate, Room 237, family visitation only. Her breath caught. She didn't know why, but her body moved toward it. As if pulled by gravity, she pushed the door open. Inside was a hospital room, a bed, machines beeping softly, a single chair at the bedside. And lying in the bed, a woman, gaunt, pale, unconscious. Olivia stepped closer. She recognized the woman's face. It was her mother, but that was impossible. Her mother had died 3 years ago, stroke. Olivia had missed the last call, had sent it to voicemail while at a party. A decision she had never forgiven herself for. She reached out to touch the woman's hand. The woman's eyes shot open, black, empty. Her mouth opened in a silent scream. The machines flatlined, the walls cracked, the floor fell away. Olivia screamed as she plunged into darkness. She woke up on the nursery floor, same crib, same mobile, same wall of photographs. Only now her photo was burned, singed at the edges. The air smelled like smoke and sorrow. Something had changed. She stood slowly. Her head pounded, her hands were shaking uncontrollably, and then she saw it, a door, real, visible, open. It hadn't been there before. Outside was a hallway bathed in red light. She didn't know what waited beyond it, but she stepped forward anyway, because the whispers had stopped, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she could feel it. The house was testing her, and she wasn't done yet. He wears their faces. The hallway smelled like copper and rot. As Olivia stepped through the newly opened door, the red light overhead bathed everything in a sick, pulsing glow, like she had stepped inside the body of something alive and angry. The floor was damp beneath her bare feet, not wet like water, thicker, sticky, blood. The door shut behind her with a slam. She didn't turn back. She couldn't. Each step forward felt like wading through syrup. The air thickened, dragging against her skin. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears, like it was being amplified by the walls themselves. She passed mirrors, tall, vertical ones, standing like sentries on either side of the hallway. Dozens of them. None reflected her, not exactly. Instead, each showed a different version of her. In one, her eyes were sewn shut. In another, her mouth was stretched wide open like a mutilated jack-o'-lantern, teeth missing. One showed her screaming, in flames. Another smiling with a knife in her hand. They weren't mirrors, they were warnings. She kept going. At the end of the hallway, a door slowly opened on its own, groaning like an old man forced to wake from a nightmare. Beyond it was what looked like a dining room, but wrong, twisted. The table was long, almost too long to be possible, stretching into shadows that flickered with movement. Chairs lined both sides, filled with people, but they weren't moving. She stepped closer. Mannequins, no, not mannequins, corpses, dressed in formal wear, posed stiffly, their heads bowed, their faces missing. Every single one had a different face sewn onto it. Some stretched too tight, others sagged like wet cloth, but each one had been carefully stitched on, like someone trying to preserve them or wear them, and at the head of the table, slouched in a throne carved from bones and broken wood, Jack, or what was left of him. His face twitched. One eye blinked. The skin around his mouth drooped slightly, as if it didn't quite belong to him. He was shirtless, chest scarred with strange symbols, some deep and fresh, others faded and rotting. His fingers tapped the table, rhythmically. Tap, tap, tap. A lullaby played from an unseen source, slow, warped, childlike. Olivia froze at the threshold. Her breath caught. Jack looked up and smiled. "Welcome back," he said, in a voice that sounded like it came from beneath the floor. She didn't move. "You've seen some of it now," he said. "Enough to start remembering." "What are you?" she asked. Her voice cracked. She barely recognized it. He tilted his head. The skin around his jaw split slightly, revealing something slick and black beneath. Muscle? No, something older. I'm what's left when people stop pretending, he said. I'm the mask they all wear until the mask eats them from the inside. He stood slowly. His body creaked like old leather. They came here just like you, swiped right, smiled, lied, danced around their secrets. He gestured to the corpses at the table. I didn't hurt them. Not at first. I just showed them who they really were. He began to walk toward her. Olivia stepped back. I saw what they did, he continued. Their regrets, their shame, and I helped them remember. Why me? She whispered. His smile widened. Because you're perfect. You already wear a mask so well, Olivia. She shook her head. No. You pretend you're fine, that you've moved on, that the guilt doesn't eat you alive. He was inches from her now. Your mother died alone. Her eyes filled with tears. You sent her call to voicemail, he whispered. You went. Back to your drink, to your party while she was dying. Shut up, Olivia said, trembling. Jack leaned in. His breath was cold against her cheek. You've been screaming for punishment ever since. That's why you matched with me. She raised her hands, pushed him hard. Jack stumbled back, laughing. It wasn't human laughter. It was a guttural, shrieking sound that echoed like tearing metal. His face split open, literally, the seams around. His jaw burst, his cheeks peeled back. His entire face slid off like a wet mask. Beneath it was a writhing black mass. Eyes, mouths, hands, all fused into a shifting liquid thing that pulsed and grinned and moaned in voices she recognized. Help. Me! Don't leave me! It hurts, Olivia. Voices of the women from the photographs, the voices of the dead. She ran back into the hallway, back past the mirrors. They screamed as she passed, the reflections smashing themselves against the glass, trying to get out. She turned a corner and stopped short. She was in her apartment, same beige carpet, same thrift store bookshelf, same dying fern in the corner, only something was wrong. The window showed nothing, no city, no sky, just a black void. She stepped toward her kitchen and saw her phone on the counter. Buzzing, one notification. She picked it up. Tinder. You've got a new match. Her hands trembled as she opened the app. The screen flashed. Her own face stared back at her. But wrong. Her eyes were wide and unblinking. Her mouth was smiling, too wide. The face began to melt, pixel by pixel. Then a message appeared. You're next. The screen cracked in her hand. She screamed, dropped the phone, and when she looked up, her apartment had vanished. She stood in front of a large steel door, bolted. From the outside, carved into it with nail marks over and over again. He wears their face, she wears their face, she wears their faces. She opened the door. Beyond it, a long corridor filled with TVs on either side. Old boxy televisions stacked to the ceiling, each one playing a different moment from her life. Her first kiss, her graduation, her mother on a hospital bed holding out a hand Olivia never took. Each screen buzzed with static between memories. As she walked, the TVs began to change. They showed her Tinder chats, her dates, the lies she told, the secrets she kept. And then they showed the women who came before her, each one on a date with Jack, each one smiling, each one dying, some burned, some drowned, one strangled slowly while laughing like it was a joke. And on every screen, Jack eventually peeled off his face and wore theirs. He took their pain and made it his skin. At the end of the corridor, one final screen lit up. Olivia stepped closer. It showed her, but she wasn't dead. She was wearing Jack's face. She sat on the bone throne, smiling, tapping her fingers in the same rhythm. The same black void behind her. Her voice came from the TV. We all wear something, Olivia, until it wears us. The screen exploded. Darkness swallowed her again. When the light returned, she stood in front of a mirror, a real one. Her face looked the same, but she didn't trust it anymore. Behind her, dozens of figures began to gather, slowly, quietly, all the women from the photos, each one pale. Hollow-eyed, watching her. They didn't speak, but Olivia heard them just the same. He took everything. Don't let him take you. Remember who you are. She turned, reached out, touched one of their hands. It was cold, solid, real, and just like that, the hallway cracked, the mirrors shattered, and Jack's scream roared through the air like a hurricane. You don't get to leave! The walls bled, the lights blew. The floor crumbled beneath her feet, but the women formed a circle around her, holding hands, binding something in place. And then she saw it. Jack, without any face at all now, just a writhing, skinless thing shrieking in agony. The women pulled him down, into the floor, into the dark. Olivia watched, frozen, until the last hand disappeared beneath the surface. Then, silence. Light. Real light. She woke up in an alley behind a bar. Her dress was torn, her feet were bleeding. A couple passed by and stopped. "Miss, are you okay?" She tried to speak. Instead, she sobbed. The ambulance came. Then the police. She told them pieces, just enough. No one believed her. There was no Jack in the Tinder database, no record of the bar reservation. Her apartment, the real one, was untouched, but she knew. He was still out there, waiting. Match, message, murder Olivia, never touch the Tinder app again. Not after that night. Not after waking up in that alley with claw marks down her arms, her mind frayed like the end of a burnt rope. But Tinder wasn't done with her. The notifications kept coming. New match. He's waiting. Don't. Forget Jack. She deleted the app. Changed phones, switched her number, moved apartments. It didn't matter. Somehow he followed, and not just digitally. Sometimes she saw him in crowds, a shape just out of focus, a man in a black coat standing still while everyone else moved. Sometimes she woke to find her mirrors fogged up, words scrawled into the condensation. "Let me in," or worse, "I miss your face." She stopped sleeping, started drinking. Anything to keep from dreaming. But the dreams came anyway. Each night she relived the corridor of televisions. The bone throne, the stitched-up women screaming in silence. Each time Jack's face was different. Sometimes it was hers. She hit rock bottom 6 months later in a cheap motel outside Detroit. She didn't even remember driving there, just waking. Up in the passenger seat of her own car, a bloodied matchbook in her lap with the word "home" scrawled inside. She checked into room 9. That night, her nightmare changed. It wasn't Jack she saw. It was Claire. Claire was her best friend once. The one who begged her not to go on that first Tinder date. The one who vanished 2 months later after matching with someone named No Face 29. Claire stood in the dream, hands trembling. "He has them all," she said. "He took their faces, but he couldn't take mine. I ran. Where are you?" Olivia asked. Claire looked up, eyes black and bleeding. "Still running." Then she screamed and the room burned. Olivia woke, gasping, her bed soaked. Not with sweat, with water. Salt water. She started researching every unsolved Tinder disappearance in the last 3 years. Names, photos, patterns. And there was a pattern. They were all women, all reported missing within 48 hours of matching with someone whose profile eventually vanished without a trace. In one case, a girl named Maya Tran had messaged a friend a single phrase before disappearing. "His face doesn't match his voice." And another girl, Ellie Summers, had scribbled the word hollow into her journal on the night she vanished. Over and over again, pages and pages of the same word, but no case ever led anywhere. No bodies, no suspects, until Olivia found one. Thread no one else seemed to connect. Every single girl had checked into a hotel called the White Hollow Inn at some point in the week before they vanished, all in different states, all under different aliases, but always the same hotel name. That Couldn't be a coincidence, so Olivia checked in under a fake name, wearing a red wig with a knife tucked inside her boot. The White Hollow Inn was nothing special, mid-tier, beige walls, generic art. But there was something off about it from the moment she stepped through the doors. The lobby had no mirrors. The clerk's smile never reached his eyes. The air smelled faintly of iron and old water. She was given room 301. Her keycard had no number. Just a symbol, a circle with jagged edges, like a sun made of teeth. Inside the room, everything looked normal. But the TV turned on by itself the second she closed the door. Static. Then a voice. "You came back." She tried to turn it off. It wouldn't stop. "You want the truth, Olivia? Then look under the bed." She hesitated, then dropped to her knees and lifted the bedskirt. A face stared back at her, not a body, just a face, pale, preserved, eyes open. "Claire!" she screamed. The lights exploded, the TV shorted out, and then silence when she dared to look. Again. Nothing was there, no face, no blood, but she knew it wasn't a hallucination, because on the wall, in black dripping ink, were the words, "I wore her well." She ran to the front desk, demanded answers. The clerk didn't flinch. "You checked in, Miss Rowe," he said softly, reading her fake name like it was real. "You'll have to stay until the night is over." "What night?" she shouted. He looked up then, and behind his face, just for a second, something rippled. A second face. Another mouth, hidden under his skin. "You'll know when it ends," he said. She backed away, bumped into a bellhop. The bellhop smiled too. Same flicker, same ripple. They all wore masks. Olivia ran back to her room, locked the door, pushed the dresser against it. Then her phone lit up. "New match, Jack 93. Jack is 1 mile away." She dropped the phone. It started to ring, her mother's voice. "Liv, baby, I need you." Olivia screamed and smashed the phone with her boot, but the voice kept coming, from inside the TV now, from the walls. "Don't ignore me again. It's your fault I died. You left me alone. You should have burned with me." She covered her ears, shut her eyes, and when she opened them, she wasn't in the room anymore. She stood in a vast, empty ballroom. Hundreds of faces floated in glass jars along the walls, illuminated by flickering chandeliers. Each one weeping, each one mouthing her name. "Olivia, Olivia, Olivia." And in the center of the room, Jack. But this time, he wasn't wearing anyone's face. He was nothing but a tall, eyeless figure made of stitched flesh, hundreds of mouths whispering in overlapping, nightmarish voices. "They gave me their faces, but you brought me home." He reached out. "Come closer, let me try you on." Olivia pulled the knife from her boot. It shook in her hand. Jack laughed. "You think that blade is sharp enough to undo truth?" But Olivia wasn't aiming for him. She slashed the veins on her palm, letting her blood pour onto the marble floor. The whispers screeched, the jars rattled. Jack paused. "What are you doing?" She stepped forward, leaving a trail of blood. "You took faces," she said, "but not souls, not truth. You live on secrets, on guilt, on shame." Her voice rose. "But I'm not ashamed anymore." She squeezed her bloody palm against the ground, drawing the symbol from the keycard, the sun of teeth, and suddenly the whispers stopped. Jack staggered. The ballroom rippled. "No," he hissed. "You don't remember yet. You don't know who you really are." Olivia looked him in the eyeless face. "I do now." "Do." The blood beneath her began to glow. The jars cracked. Faces rose, swirling into the air like spirits freed from glass prisons, and each one whispered the same thing as they circled Jack. "Wear yourself. Wear yourself. Wear yourself." Jack fell to his knees, screaming. The mouths on his body turned inward. He began to rot, and then he was gone. Not exploded, not burned, just gone. The ballroom faded. Olivia awoke in her car. The sun rising. The White Hollow Inn, now a burned-out husk. Behind her, no staff, no guests, no signs it had operated for years. She drove away in silence. That night, she stood in front of her bathroom mirror. Her reflection stared back, her own eyes, her own face. But for the first time in what felt like forever, she recognized it. She opened the Tinder app one last time, not to swipe, not to match, to delete it, but there was one final message waiting from an account that no longer existed, just 3 words. Next is her. Underneath it, a photo of Sophie, her younger sister, smiling at a coffee shop. The timestamp, 5 minutes ago. And behind, Sophie in the photo, a figure in a black coat smiling, the girl who swiped back. The moment Olivia saw Sophie's photo, she threw her phone across the room, but it didn't break. It just lit up again. Your sister's lovely. She smells like rosewater. Tick-tock. She stared at the image. Sophie sipping coffee, unaware of the man in the black coat seated behind her. No face, but unmistakable. His grin was stretched too wide, like someone trying on a skin that didn't quite fit. He was already close. Olivia's blood turned to ice. She hadn't spoken to Sophie in over a year, not since the night of their final fight. Sophie had begged her to get help, to stop obsessing over haunted dating apps and faces in the dark. Olivia pushed her away, told her to go live her perfect ignorant life and leave the ghosts to her. But now Sophie was in danger, and it was Olivia's fault. She tracked Sophie's location using the Find My app. A cafe downtown, 15 minutes. Away! Olivia didn't even bother changing clothes, just grabbed the same knife she used in the White Hollow Inn, still stained faintly with blood. On the way, she called Sophie 5 times. No answer. By the 6th, it went straight to voicemail. She parked crooked on the curb and sprinted into the cafe. It was too late. The barista had seen Sophie. She left 5 minutes ago, he said. Looked nervous, said something about Uber being too quiet. Then he added, her date didn't drink anything, just watched. Tall guy, pale, like wax. Wore a coat even though it's June. Olivia's heart sank. She checked the alley behind the cafe. Empty, no cameras, no clues. But then, her phone buzzed again. Live video feed. She tapped it. The screen filled with a shaky image. Sophie sitting in the back of a car, her head lolling slightly, eyes glassy, a soft smile on her lips. Behind her, the driver, just a shadow, until he spoke. 1. Last ride! Sophie didn't move. Where are you taking her? Olivia screamed into the phone, but the screen went dark. Then another message popped up. Come find her, sis, or I'll wear her next. Olivia knew where he was going, not a place on a map, not exactly, but it hit her like instinct. The mirror world, where faces were worn like masks, where whispers hummed behind the wallpaper, where Jack lived. The White Hollow. In was just one doorway. There had to be another, and she knew exactly where to look. Claire's apartment. She'd kept the keys. Never had the courage to go back, but now she did. The building was abandoned. Police had taped it off after Claire vanished. Olivia ducked through the caution tape and climbed the stairs. The door was stiff, but it opened. Inside, everything was covered in white sheets, except for the mirror in the hallway, uncovered, polished, and humming faintly. Olivia stepped closer, and the mirror rippled. Not like glass, like water. Then it showed her an image. Sophie, standing alone in a room of masks, her mouth sewn shut, her eyes pleading. Come, the mirror whispered. She's fading. Olivia pressed her bleeding palm to the glass. It sucked her in. She landed in a hallway that looked like a decaying hotel corridor. Flickering lights, stained wallpaper, every door marked with symbols she couldn't understand. The air buzzed with whispers. Faces peered from behind the wallpaper, trapped in silence. Save her, they murmured, before he becomes her. She ran, past doors that opened into nothing, past windows that showed her memories she didn't recognize, until she reached a door marked 6, a perfect red 6 carved into black wood. The moment she touched the handle, it bit her. Blood dripped down. The door opened anyway. Inside was a theater. Rows of mannequins sat in silent audience, all wearing the faces of the missing girls. On stage, Jack. Only this time, he wore Claire's face, laughing, dancing, twisting into grotesque shapes. As the mouths on his body chanted, "You swiped. You invited. You welcomed me in." Then he stopped and bowed. Behind him a curtain parted. Sophie stood center stage. Her eyes were hollow, her mouth sewn shut, her face already cracking like a porcelain mask being prepared for removal. "No!" Olivia screamed. She ran for the stage, but the mannequins stood, hundreds of them, each one stepping forward, reaching for her with cold plastic fingers. She slashed through them with her knife, screaming Sophie's name, but they didn't bleed. They just wept. "Help us." He wore me on Valentine's Day. He said I looked better on him. One mannequin grabbed her by the throat. Its face was hers. "This is where we all end." Olivia plunged the knife through its face. It shattered. The others paused, long enough for her to reach Sophie. She climbed onto the stage and held her sister. Sophie didn't react. Her skin was cold. The stitches across her mouth twitched. Jack stepped forward. Claire's face began to slip off his skull, revealing a raw, grinning thing beneath. "She's not Sophie anymore. She's canvas." Olivia shook her. No, you don't get to have her." Jack smiled wider. "Then take her place." And without warning, he lunged. They tumbled off the stage, into darkness, into water. Olivia fell through faces, screams, memories. Jack was everywhere. "Your fault. You were the first. You swiped me into your world. You birthed me." The truth hit her like a scream. Jack didn't exist until she matched with him. He was born from her trauma, her guilt, her grief, a curse she fed with fear. A mask, made of every secret she never faced. But now she saw through him, and in that moment, she stopped fearing him. She surfaced. Back on the stage, Jack towered over her, mouths shrieking. But he looked unstable, like a house of cards in the wind. Olivia reached for Sophie, held her and whispered, "He's nothing without us." The stitches on Sophie's mouth dissolved. Her eyes cleared. She gasped and screamed together. The scream shattered the theater. The mannequins fell. The faces peeled away. Jack's form split down the middle, revealing a hollow cavity filled with teeth and mirrors. Olivia pulled Sophie toward the blood-symbol door. Jack reached out one final time, but his fingers crumbled. Like ash, like forgotten nightmares, they woke in Claire's apartment together, alive, holding each other. Outside, the world felt new, the sun brighter, the air cleaner. Sophie asked, "Was it real?" Olivia nodded. "But we ended it," she said, or so she thought. That night, Sophie downloaded a new dating app. Not Tinder, something different, sleeker, cooler, called Fleshlight. She clicked the first match. The profile, no picture, just the name, OL1V1A, and the bio, "I wear you better." Swipe to end. Sophie stared at the screen. Match found, OL1V1A, "I wear you better." Her finger hovered over the screen, paralyzed. A cold breath ran down the back of her neck, even though the window was shut. Was it a glitch, a joke, Olivia messing with her? She looked up. Across the apartment, Olivia stood still in the kitchen, her back turned. She hadn't moved in almost a full minute. "Sis," Sophie called gently, "did you make a new account?" No answer, just the sound of the faucet dripping, drip, drip, drip. "Sis?" Sophie said again, her voice cracking. Then Olivia turned. But it wasn't Olivia. Her smile was too wide. Her eyes were empty. Her voice was deeper. "You left the door open." 3 days earlier, just after their return from Claire's apartment, Olivia thought it was over. She and Sophie had burned the clothes they wore inside the mirror world. She smashed the phone, deleted every trace of Tinder, buried the knife in the woods. And for a while, it seemed to work. She slept, she dreamed, but the dreams were quiet until the third night, when she saw herself in the dream, standing by a lake of faces, mimicking her every move, every breath. And when she turned away, her reflection didn't. It smiled, then whispered, "There's no more Jack. Only you now." Back in the present, Sophie backed away from the thing wearing Olivia's face. "What did you do with her?" The thing tilted its head. She cracked the door. I walked through. It took a step forward. Its voice distorted, as if dozens of mouths spoke in chorus. "Jack was just the beginning, a mask made of shadows. But you gave me shape. Both. Of you. Through fear, through guilt, through swipes." Sophie tried to run, but the door slammed shut on its own. Windows blacked out. The apartment dimmed like a dying stage light. Olivia, or whatever she had become, moved closer. "Do you know why I chose Tinder? Because humans already wear masks there. They swipe like gods, choosing faces like costumes, dismissing souls with a thumb." The creature laughed. "I didn't come through Tinder. I was born from it." Sophie bolted into Olivia's bedroom and locked the door. She pressed herself against it, panting, as footsteps approached. Then silence. Then a whisper from the phone in her pocket. She pulled it out, trembling. "Run program, mask sync beta." It wasn't Tinder anymore. It had changed into an app she didn't remember installing. A sleek black screen with a symbol she had seen before. Sun made of teeth. She almost threw the phone away, but then a second voice came through, Olivia's real voice, weak, distorted, from inside the app. "Sophie, listen. Trap it. Elsewhere. Inside the mirror world." The real Olivia was trapped in a pocket of black glass. Her body hung in suspension, eyes closed, mouth bound by silence. But her mind burned with clarity. She remembered everything now. There was never just one Jack. There were many. He was the mask, but she had become the mirror, and somewhere in that tangled horror of reflections, something worse had slipped through. Not just a creature that wore faces, but a parasite that needed recognition to survive. It needed belief, fear, interaction, and Tinder had given it billions of swipes, millions of open doors. But Olivia had one final trick, one trap. Back in the real world, Sophie stared at the app. A prompt flashed, "Engage mask sync and mirror lock host?" Yes. No tears welled in her eyes. "Olivia, if you're really in there..." Another voice came from the kitchen. Her voice, "She's gone. I'm you now." The door began to splinter. Sophie hit yes. The lights exploded. The floor seemed to peel away. Sophie collapsed as the world flipped inside out, and then she was there again, the place of whispers. But this time, she wasn't alone. She saw Olivia, floating in black. Their eyes met, and Sophie screamed. Everything shattered. When Sophie awoke, she was alone in a white hospital room. Machines beeped softly. Her mother sobbed quietly in the corner. "What happened?" Sophie croaked. Her mother looked up, eyes hollow. "You were found in Olivia's apartment, unconscious, no sign of her. The windows were sealed shut from the inside." The police never found Olivia, but Sophie remembered. She remembered the trap, the mirror world, the creature that tried to steal their faces, and she remembered Olivia saying one thing before she vanished. "The only way to kill a mask is to show it its own reflection." 3 months later, Sophie never returned to dating apps. She kept a mirror beside her bed. Sometimes she caught glimpses, faces that weren't hers, staring back just a little too long. But they faded. One night, while scrolling a news article about digital haunting folklore, a familiar image popped up. A screenshot from Tinder username OL1V1A status. Active now. Bio. "I still wear her. Swipe right." Sophie smiled sadly, closed the laptop, and picked up the black phone Olivia left behind, the one no one else could unlock, the one that still buzzed with that terrible symbol, the sun with teeth. She opened. The app inside a video file waited. Just one final message. Olivia's face pale but calm. If you're seeing this, then I failed. Or maybe I succeeded in the only way I could. I trapped it, Soph, inside this device. Inside the loop, I became the bait. Don't ever open it. Don't let it sync with another mirror. Keep it cold. Keep it alone. It can't wear what it can't see. It can't be real unless someone believes in it. The screen glitched. Then Olivia looked directly into the lens. Don't let it become you. The file ended. Sophie locked the phone in a steel box, drove out to the deepest part of Lake Erie, and dropped it into the black water. She watched it sink, swallowed by the depths. But as it disappeared, she thought she heard something. A whisper. Giggle, or maybe a scream. It was hard to tell. Back on the shore, Sophie stood in silence. The sun rose. Her reflection in the water looked normal, but as she turned to leave, the reflection kept staring, and then it smiled. The end.